Alrighty, hello everybody. Thank you for coming to the webinar Audio Brainwave Technologies. This is the introductory webinar. It's actually going to be the introductory to a three-part webinar afterwards. The amazing thing is with each one of these webinars, you're going to be getting some free audio CDs that actually focus on this technology. So this technology is really bringing today's leading edge technologies into your everyday meditative practice. And the problem that we're really facing here is that in this fast-paced world, we really don't have the time to ground and connect with our higher self. It's not all like we can all go up to that mountain for a few years and go into that cave and really meditate forever and really achieve the vibration and the frequency that we really desire. And what we'll learn really in this, especially in this introductory webinar, is really how we can go from stress to peace, really in moments rather than years. Really the science of brain waves, how technology can alter our state of being, and how long it really takes to work, and what the results really can be in this. And so what I'd really like to do now is introduce Don McCarty. He is the one that really he's the expert in this. I'm just one of the many blessed users of it. I really want to kind of get an idea of really what gave Don the impetus to really start using this technology, where he was at one time, and what really it has done for him. So without any further ado, Don, how are you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thank you so much. I hope you are well as well.
Doing really great. So yeah, we'd had a discussion before. I think anybody that's seen really our little introductory webinar or video has seen a little bit about this. You want to talk a little bit about maybe the state that you were in when you first discovered this technology, and perhaps what it's done for you, and give us a little bit of a background?
Sure. The technologies that we're using are all, I'm not reinventing the wheel here, or I'm not the creator of these technologies. I just simply have created a blend and a certain kind of way to use them that I find to be really efficient, that I've sort of kind of coined at most recently as sounds kind of cheesy, but it's called spirit technology was the last coined phrase of it with when I was doing the Clear Mind Sound project with GP, another musician that I worked with using some of these technologies. And it's kind of the science side of it, as well as the brains, the entertainment side, the connection to nature and other sort of points that we're trying to reference in the audio, more than just the actual audio technologies themselves. So if that made sense, the audio technologies we're talking about, people have probably heard about them. They're binaural beats, isochronic tones, and solfeggio frequencies are the primary audio technologies that we're using. And then we use other techniques to sort of mask them and sort of work in tandem with these sounds to make them more pleasant and entertaining for the mind to listen to, so that they become more enjoyable.
Excellent. And we've had an earlier discussion where we really talked about the vibration, really where you'd come from, and I'll talk a little bit about my vibration I'd come from as well. But you had spoken of what you referred to as a 0-point day. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Oh, yes. Well, go back about, it's been about 12 years now. And, I was a very traditionally stressed out IT guy. And, I was, falling into a lot of, typical traps of, pushing myself too hard, the competitive workplace, translated to, stressful work days, stressful relationships with projects, timelines, deadlines, even, and it just seemed to just it was this snowball effect of this overall stress that my career, because I'm a real go-getter, I guess you'd say. I like to constantly develop. I like to improve ideas. I like to challenge myself. And in the workplace, it translates to getting involved in lots of projects, lots of opportunities, which, also means dealing with a lot of people, which I always didn't really work out well for me. And I found that I was easily triggered in a lot of situations, which made it challenging for me in dealing with work conflict. I was getting, road ragey, kind of like trying to deal with my stress to and from work. It was getting really bad. The poor me story was spinning up. The world was out to get me. I was creating this karmic vortex of stress to myself. And, I just kind of reached this critical mass. And my wife at the time, said, you really need to do something about this. So of all people, Oprah Winfrey was doing some projects with some of her Soul Series early stuff, before the pre-Eckhart Tolle stuff. And I heard of this guy, Bill Harris, and his Holosync, and using the binaural beats, and really, thought, wow, this would be really great for me, because I don't have to learn to meditate. I don't have time for that. My life's already too stressful as it is. I could go away for a weekend retreat. I could get the respite for a weekend, but then the life's right back again. I'm not looking for a vacation. I don't need to go to the Bahamas for 3 weeks and recharge. What I need is finding a way to weave through my dicey workday in a way where I'm not, stressing myself out or other people, and I could be as successful in the workplace as I would see other people. I would see other people that would be able to maintain this really cool, like, pilot, well, we're going down, folks, but I'm totally calm, engine's on fire, but the pilot's calm. And I would just, I would be mesmerized by these people's, mental calmness. And I, I really wanted that. And so I have a history as an audio engineer, more of a musician, but I got, I was I got into working with synthesizers and computers and audio engineering, and so I understand sound a lot. And so I started messing around with some of these. The Silva method was another product that I was looking at to help stabilize my stress. But either their products were too subtle, or didn't really feel like anything was going on for me, or they were just like listening to a machine, just like chink, 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 or wah, 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 just stuff that was just, I couldn't listen to, So I decided that I would kind of grab all of the types of technologies that I could, put them out there, and see if I couldn't start blending and creating some stuff of my own. And one of the things that I really find helpful for relaxation is nature sounds, like a lot of people do, listen, like sitting in a forest, or sitting on a beach, or sitting by a river, or anything like that. That seems to have a natural calming effect. That just, everywhere in my life that I've ever been able to just, it just seems to have this calming effect. So I wanted to have a piece of that in every single one of the works. I really wanted to feel like you're connecting with that. And water is generally a way to do that. So every one of the tracks has rain, or, by a river, by an ocean, by, a lot of live tracks all in stereo, so that you can feel like you're there as much as possible. And then nice melodic chordal relationships and certain sorts of maybe, vocal tones and stuff, enough to entertain the mind, but not enough to be like a song or anything that gets the mind kind of just snapping along, something to just really let you release and open, and then finding the right scales and chords and patterns and voices that worked in tandem with these sounds, so that you would have the power of the sound, but the brain could be entertained. So that kind of like if I told you, think of your foot right now, and all of a sudden you can feel your foot, but you really weren't kind of thinking about your foot until, you have this sort of filter. So with the audio, and when we listen to some of these tones, if we get a chance to, you'll see that they're kind of brutal, really, to just sit and listen to them. They're high frequency tones. And for me, my brain's really resistant to listen to them for more than just maybe a minute or two. But when you blend them into this the other soundscape elements, the sound just blends right in there, and it's there, but the other elements dance around it and make it pleasant for the mind. So
Amazing. It's amazing how it's just an amalgamation of all these different, techniques and frequencies and technologies, and even really just like even nature, really bringing it all in, making it pleasant and really helping, us to get the vibration. I know for me personally, I used to be such a creature really of fear, and just was, constantly in that vibration. And, I know that whenever I listen to these, it's almost like I can feel. I really don't even know how to really describe it, but at first it just seems very pleasant, and then I can feel my brain just like really being trained into a new place, and I mean it's almost like I can actually feel it happening. So um, maybe next we'll start getting into really more of the technologies of it. I did a little bit of background research before, so I might sound halfway like I knew what I was even talking about. What I really thought was really amazing was that I hope I'm going to say this right, the solfeggio frequencies, how they're really based upon, the Gregorian chants and the six-tone scale that was really used back then for, sacred music. And, we've talked a little bit about that before, about how, I guess this would be back in the medieval days, about how minor chords were actually thought of as the devil. You know what I mean? We're actually not even allowed to be played. Do you want to talk a little bit about solfeggio frequencies and give a little bit more of an intelligent background on those?
Yeah, that was quite intelligent, sir. Yeah, that's basically it. I mean, the ancient tone scales, the songs of Saint Hildegard of Bingen, for example, an ancient, Christian mystic, creating songs that resonate with the soul and the energy and feel like you're connecting with God, and uplifting things. And you can translate a lot of that to, like, there's one of the more popular frequencies, the love frequency, 528 hertz. Leonard Horowitz has done some research with that, and that's pretty popular. It's considered the love frequency. Has actually been shown to affect DNA at that certain tonal frequency. So it's considered to be kind of like a magical frequency. It kind of sounds a lot like the note C, which is very uplifting. And so when you hear chordal arrangements and things in C, G, D, these are chords and tones that are very uplifting and very positive, as opposed to other chordal arrangements which you feel. And so it's amazing how, you can just think of it anecdotally, or you could just think about it just a song, or you could think about it's really serious, this religious context. But you can honestly say, when you hear the tone, you feel, it's uplifting and you can feel it. And so that is really where we're going with that. It's the religious part of it. For me, is very interesting philosophically. Thinking about things is very interesting. The idea of spiritual connections, very interesting. But this is just, it makes you feel good. You can feel it. And so whether or not, the greatest amount of research has been done in that frequency. But honoring that frequency and that scale, I've followed the line of the certain types of orientation the frequencies are supposed to align themselves with mentally into the actual works to help supercharge them for a variety of uses. I can honestly tell you that, just like in music, if you hear something in a certain scale, your mind's going to be thinking a certain way, a different way. It's as simple as that. It's very mystical if you make it mystical, but you can feel it, and that's really what it's all about, is creating the products that you can really feel them. And we'll go through all the different frequencies, and we can, sort of get a flavor for all the different ones. And as you get used to trying them out, you'll get an idea that, for me personally, some of the frequencies are very good for sleeping, relaxation, general use, just wanting to feel good. Some of them, if I really want to be like really introspective, creative, let my mind really go, like deep meditation, really contemplative mind. There's certain frequencies for that, like 741 hertz is really good for that. but it doesn't sound, it sounds a little bit, you know, it's hard to really put into words, but it wouldn't be something you'd want to sleep to, you know. I mean, you just, as you start to play, you can see where they would fit into different kinds of modalities for your mind, and it sort of helps kind of move it along there, you know.
Interesting. Yeah. So from what I saw, there were like 7 major frequencies. Is that true?
There are 7 major frequencies. That's correct.
And so do the frequencies sort of follow, I guess you would say, consciousness levels? Like the lower the frequency, the lower the consciousness level that you would be at. Is that true?
Why, yes, Pete.
Okay. I mean, it's kind of amazing how that kind of works.
It's pretty simple too in that regard. If you look at it all the way from 936 hertz all the way down to 396, I think it's I have to look at my list. I always get the last one. You can see where it basically goes from 396 hertz, where you're dealing with liberating a little your guilt and your fear, all the way up to 936 hertz, where you're dealing with pineal gland activation, which is like lucid dreaming, direct concept. So as the frequencies increase in speed, the higher connection, if you will, becomes more. It's more of a higher connection thing, and it starts from a very emotional level, emotional, physical, spiritual, at least in the way that it's diagrammed. Almost, you know, there's a lot of similarities with like chakras and other sorts of levels and centers. You know, as these frequencies go higher up, you know, and then of course the pineal gland being, you know, high up. And, you know, of course you've got the crown chakra and all this sort of stuff, but it's sort of this area all the way down, you know, in terms of frequencies, seems to correlate in terms of chakras and increasing in speed.
Amazing. That is really so cool. So I know for me personally, there would probably be 3 major things I would be looking for, and that would be probably rest. That would probably be some type of a tone that would help me to perhaps concentrate, and then something that would help me to really meditate. Those would probably be the 3 things that I would be most interested in myself. And what can you kind of show us? Which is it? Is it the frequencies that would cause those different states of consciousness, or allow you to be able to enter them easier?
Well, the real power punch in this thing is the entrainment, which is the frequencies that are being either directly created or what are called an audio artifact. These are low frequencies that correlate with the frequencies that your brain will operate and awake from a sleep to awaking to an, you know, agitated state all the way through, which basically corresponds to slow to faster speed as well. And so, you know, depending on what you're trying to do, the 528 hertz frequency is pretty much the mainstay frequency for meditation, for sleep. You know, it has a lot of physical activating power. It's very pleasant to listen to. It's very easy to integrate in just about anything, you know. And so as far as a solfeggio frequency, that would be pretty much a go-to frequency. And then when you get into what state you want to get into, whether or not it's a meditative state, deep sleep state, maybe a creative state, you know, that's where you're dealing with the alpha, theta, delta ranges.
Cool. All right. And so let's really talk about the whole thing altogether called brainwave entrainment. Is that like the whole concept of what we're building here, or what's been built?
Yeah, that's a coined phrase. Yeah, a coined.
Okay. And so that's like neural entrainment, right? Where you're putting all these things together and really kind of training the brain as far as which really frequency you want to put it into. Because I think it's so fascinating how what we're really even talking about is how we are all just vibration, we are all just frequency, and about how we're just sort of like realigning ourselves into the preferred one that we want to go into. That's the whole concept, isn't it?
Well, yes, but really we're designed to follow dominant resonance.
Hmm.
This research was done, originally on oscillating mechanical devices. The concept, the term entrainment was originally referred to oscillating motors and I forget, that basically, that when left alone for a long enough period of time started to resonate and oscillate together.
Hmm.
And there's a tendency for resonance in everything. There's a tendency for resonance in nature. There's a tendency for resonance in social systems. There's a tendency for resonance in everything. And tendency towards resonance really entrainment. So your brain basically is happy to follow dominant resonant energy. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to sneak enough consistent, dominant, suggestive frequency energy to the brain, and the brain will follow suit. And so it's really just a matter of allowing system to work for a long enough period of time to get it to work. And so it's generally just a few minutes. I would say 10 minutes minimum to really get the real effect. But after about 10 minutes, it's pretty much the dominant controlling frequency. So if you're stressing out or you're getting the weird vibe, or even people walk in the room and getting all worked up, whatever it is, you get worked up too. You're watching Fox News for a while or something stressful, or you're listening to some death metal or something, whatever. I oftentimes listen to heavy metal that I loved when I was a kid, and I'm like, Ike's, I'm feeling, it's like kind of stresses me out. But man, when I was a kid, I was like, yeah, that was so, I loved it then, but right now it's like, not for me. And because I've become so sensitive to the effects of resonance, because I'm really sensitive to that, and I can trigger off of that, and I can, I'm really good at debating people and getting in these conflictive things, especially when it's work related, and I know what's going on, and I can be in left field. And so it's really important for me to be super aware, because other dominant people trigger me. So when they're around, I find that I could just work. I mean, left to my own devices, I don't know where I would be in my life right now. I probably ended up, having, driving into somebody because they cut me off in traffic, and I had just some bad day, and it's like, what happened to Dawn? I don't know, 3-car pile up. No one really knows the backstory. I probably somebody, because your brain is just looking for just any outlet for all of that tension it's building up. It's like, ooh, that whole kick your dog syndrome, whatever it is. And unless you understand the ebb and flow of how that energy works in your system, you become a victim to it. And so the audio effect is so strong that you can crank it in your car, you can wear earbuds. I could be dealing with a stressful situation at work, go out to my car, pop the headphones in just a few minutes. My brain isn't walking off in the story, that goddamn garbage. All of a sudden those thought tendencies start to change, because my resonant energy, instead of rising, the story is weaving around the rising energy rise as well. And so your energy is rising. And so now you're thinking about, it's so funny, like if you're younger and somebody like gets one over on you and stuff, how many times you had that fantasy of just like, if I just blew them up and then, ran them over that time, or your brain does these weird things. It relives it and does all these things. And you get ramped up with that energy. And so whenever I'd feel myself getting a little, worked up, rather than just letting it ride, I would excuse myself, could take a few minutes, get my car or whatever, and I would find that it would dissipate, that my thought structure, would change. And so I would, it's similar to you know, I mean, I dare not say similar to a drug, but it's similar to a direct, almost narcotic effect, if you will. It's, I mean, but it's without the actual deliberating effects. It's just, you just all of a sudden are wanting to be nicer, and you know, and that's what I really wanted to be, is like nicer more often, and you know, not stressed out, and not always going for the kill, and you know, just becoming more gentle. And all around me are, you know, easy to follow resonant paths towards stress, you know. And so you can provide your own path with these tools, and they can be on your phone, they can be, you know, at your fingertips, and they're super powerful. And they can also, you know, if you have a really comfortable and calm and stable, and wonderful friends, great, we're all, you have nothing of my problems that I was talking about, and you want to have deeper meditation, better sleep, you know, you can take things to the next level with these kind of tools as well. They can enhance your already established blissful states. They can take you to the next level too.
It's interesting. It's almost like you can't find those thought patterns, and when you reach different vibrational levels, it's no longer accessible to you.
It's like there's a different writer comes in the room and the script changes. Exactly.
Right. And one of the things that you were explaining to me that I thought was so interesting is how in the binaural beats, how this actually, it's almost like there's two different sounds happening in each ear. And will you explain that to us? I don't want to, in my simpleton's view, say what I think of it is.
Well, the brain operates in really low frequencies, from like 0 to about 12 hertz. And the audible hearing range for a human is about 40 hertz. You know, it's pretty high. So it doesn't really hear those tones. You can't generate a tone that you're going to be able to recognize. So what you do is you create two tones that are so close to each other in frequency that it has to be in the binaural beats, it has to be stereo. So because of the nature of the mind and the way you work, and the resolution between the center and the left right hemispheres, the brain wants these tones to be the same. They're so close. They're like, so you'll take one ear, you'll put maybe 520 hertz. And then in this ear, you'll put 530 hertz. Okay, so there's only a 10 hertz difference there. They sound so close to the brain that the brain wants to concatenate that information and generate a single tone out of that. And it sees the difference between those tones, and it creates its own audio artifact that becomes the resonant information. That it's amazing. It's truly amazing. It's not even real audio. It's an audio artifact between two frequencies that are so close that the brain generates the information for the difference of the frequencies as the dominant tone in the frequency.
Is part of that just keeping the brain busy?
It's actually, the actual information is a strong, steady stream of frequency that it translates as an audio signal that really isn't an audio signal. It's actually an audio artifact, as the brain's the audio and the brain, what you hear as audio is obviously waves that come into your ear, and then they're translated to information and into your brain, and then you translate them as sounds. That particular effect has the ability to translate into what the brain deciphers as a very strong tone in that difference. So, and then listening to that for a long enough period of time, you'll notice the brain will fall in line with that frequency. So if you're looking for deep sleep, you'd set your frequency in the delta range. And after the brain, the brain is going to, you might have all kinds of tendencies towards being awake, but that dominant tone is going to be there. And eventually it's a constant reinforcer for the brain to go back to the place that you want it to be. And it works. It works. You know, in fact, I'm not sure what the new studies are on the new HD TVs and stuff, but and the way a lot of the new broadcasts work. But the traditional TVs, actually, there's a study from the 60s where watching the TV, and because visual pulses can do the same kind of effect, it can create resonant information for the brain through the eyes, and then it will also change that. If you watch TV, you'll go into an alpha state, and you become actually more suggestive, more suggestible, or you can be suggested to things easier. And then as soon as you stop watching the TV, you go back into the beta state. So it has a direct effect, and you would be more likely to daydream in that particular state, and you'd be more likely to be influenced by the power of suggestion in that state as well, which is great for advertising and great for the concept of television in general as the big escape. You ever find yourself daydreaming while you're watching TV about, TV? You're like watching TV, but then thinking about something of the TV. It's like, whoa, you're drifting off into fantasy land from the fantasy land you just turned on.
Can I ask a question? So you're saying there's just a slight difference. I'm sorry, I came in late. There's just a slight difference, and that difference creates this, just sort of makes you zone in on that sort of difference. In other words, that's my simpleton.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Okay, that's interesting. Right.
Yeah, in the case of the isochronic tones, that's a pulse technique with audio waves that does a similar sort of compression with the waves that does the same type of effect and frequency without needing the stereo effect that the binaural beats do with the stereo effect. So what I do is I combine them both. So that way, it's kind of the shotgun approach to this to the solution, So that way you can have the effect if you're not necessarily listening to them with stereo headphones on, but then you get more of an intense effect if you wear the headphones.
It's a bit like a singing bowl then, like if they're usually in tones, but there's variations in that bowl that kind of bounce off of each other, right?
Right, that's right. And the interesting thing about that is that we're talking about these audio tones, and we don't even hear in that range, right? So we can't even really understand what a 10 hertz tone is, because it's not really a tone to us. It's nothing. But somehow in the brain's rating scale inside, like here you have the ear, which has its certain range, but then the brain, in terms of its audio information network that it has inside, it has plenty of placeholders for those low ranges and can catalog that information direct, but you could never actually hear it, which I find to be amazing, because that means your brain is processing what it's considering to be an audio tone that you don't even hear. And so, that gets us into a lot of other lower frequency relationships with tone, like Schumann resonance, for example, which is the resonance of the earth, which is been scientifically proven and is basically connected to life, and I know that lack of access to Schumann resonance causes distress. I don't know what kind of stress. I reference to the research right now. But that's 7.43, right? And that's right in the alpha range. That's, so that peak performance energy, that daydream mind, that sort of suggests that energy, that alpha, which is for the Silva method, for example, that's an alpha state. Most of the peak performance package strategies use alpha centered, tools in terms of audio. For that reason, and that's what the earth resonates at. So we're actually resonating with these sounds with our entire body. Our ear is just this one little part of it that hears, a certain rating for our own enjoyment or whatever reason that is, survival, whatever. But that sound itself and resonance and what we would call patterns are really rhythms, which are really resonance, and where patterns cooperate, you have successful systems or good music or anything else or positive systems. And really all we're talking about is ways of, in influencing our own brains. The same way that a lot of what I guess we'd consider conspiracy, a lot of conspiracy theorists, a lot of quasi reputable research, I would say. I don't know a lot of the stuff about a lot of the mind control techniques that have been used over the years, but these particular strategies have been at the core of a lot of these types of projects because they work. So
I think it's fascinating because the last time I was actually at a casino, I noticed that after speaking with you, I recognized this tone level that was all across the entire area. I walked across the floor and I kept hearing the same tonal quality that I would never have recognized before, kind of like you were speaking about. We were talking the other day about when you're watching the news and that type of thing, when you're watching TV, there's this certain, I guess, pattern or rhythm or frequency that puts you into this sort of like more of an open space, more of a suggestible space. So I think that's really interesting how, you talk about that and how, I guess, the media and whoever has really tuned into that and started to use that for their own benefit to put you in the state that they want you to be in. So I think
that's why I don't watch it anymore. It irritates me.
Yeah, that's very sinister. But the technologies work. They really do. And so it's for that reason that I don't watch, I used to watch the news a lot. Because I used to tell myself I want to know things. Why would I not watch the news? But I went without it for a while, used some certain meditation techniques, and then got it back exposed to watching the news again, and could really tell how agitated I got and how quick it was, really quickly. So I realized it's dangerous. It's very dangerous to expose yourself to dominant resonance that isn't getting you where you want to go. And sometimes it's not as complicated as binaural beats and tones and frequencies. It's just, make sure I listen to something pleasant, instead of, AC/DC or something, even though I have this little AC/DC song I like listening to in the morning when I get really fired up for work, and dance around. But it's just because I know that it's just pure, it's pure activating energy for me, and this whole course is about putting tools in your pocket that you can have with you at any time, whether you're sitting in a doctor's office, you're at home, you're in the middle of whatever situation, anything where you can pop the headphones in, close your eyes for a couple of minutes, you can get your head right with this stuff. You can really help avoid a lot of emotional stress, and in my case, a lot of conflict. So it's kind of like it was a lifeline for me. It's been super interesting and fun doing the music and understanding the technologies and supercharging it and seeing how intense I could make the tone until it didn't sound bad, to where I didn't want to listen to it again. But when we get into coursework later, we'll see. I've got tracks where the tone is just a pure tone. Then I have the blend come in. So your brain has a chance to lock on to that tone. So if you listen, you can hear it still. But if you started listening to that before, you wouldn't be hearing it, because your brain wouldn't be tending towards that, because it's not the thing that it likes the most. It wants the little bird and this flying around, all these other things. Your brain doesn't want to listen to that tone that's in there, but it's there and it's dominant. And that's what you're feeling, where you're just, like you said, for a while just listening to some nice music, and all of a sudden you're feeling it because your brain is starting to align itself with that.
And I think that's what's so cool about this, because like you kind of alluded to here and a little bit earlier about how you've taken like nature sounds and that type of thing, and you want to talk about, because I know you've done some amazing things as far as really recording that and then really bringing into this technology and then adding all this together to where it is palatable to the brain, as well as useful.
Yeah, well, for me, nature was the escape part of it for me, because I knew that the technologies that I was using were supposed to get me into a relaxed state. I knew they were supposed to help me deal with stress better. I knew they were supposed to do certain things. But I always knew that the effects of nature made me feel that way. And that seems to be something that's universal. I can't think of anyone who's ever said, God, I hate going to the beach. It just makes me get so stressed out. You know, I mean, it's just this effect that this connection. And I think that there's just a lot of energy there, and it's really easy for us to get drawn into it and resonate with it, you know, and it's part of that resonance again. And so I wanted to bring that strong resonance, and also the iconic representation of that nature to the tracks as well. So that's what, you know, it's not just the beach, but then you start thinking of how you feel about the beach and all the things that you've thought about at the beach. And so, you know, I try to, you know, there's the beach, there's the river, there's rain, you know, there's lake, you know, and then there's night sounds, which are very powerful, with cicadas, crickets, certain sorts of night owls, certain night sounds in deep forest. In fact, one of my cool tracks, I was actually camping with my friend Eric here, who actually knew me back in the days before this stuff, and could actually tell you for sure the difference that it you know did for me personally. It could actually, you know, that's a different show. But you know, any chance I would get to get into the deep woods, and I'd plant these recorders and leave them out all night long, and then try to find these times in the deep middle of the night in places where it was just so alive, of just pure nature, where you know, the nature comes out more when the people leave. You know, and so you leave the stereo recorder out there that'll run for 18 hours, and you just, you know, and then you get it back and you'll get your pristine things, and then you just get carried right to that place. You can just feel it, you know, almost like ancient memory patterns that we all have of these nature experiences that have probably gone on for us for thousands of years, you know, if you want to talk spiritual context. But whatever it is, it just, you know, immediately relaxes me. So I like to include that in each one.
It's interesting you say that, if you don't mind me interjecting, because I, in the summer especially, I get out on the hammock and I hear the you know, I watch the bats and I hear the crickets chirping. And that's always when I have this epiphany and I start writing, and I come up with a poem or whatever. So it's kind of cool that you said that, because
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you mean. There's this deep night. I built this deck behind my house because there was a spot way back around the house that was all dark and really spooky, but cool, late at night. But I didn't want to go. So I figured if I built the deck, I could go back there, and it wasn't kind of as scary. Sounds kind of silly, but I love sitting out there and just being absorbed into the deep night and the sounds. And there's some muse to it. There's some call to a real deep part of us that I think and you can encapsulate that, just the sounds. I mean, it's amazing. They're just these little sound patterns, and you can just feel it. You can feel that you're in that swamp. You can feel it, those crickets and the frogs, and there's always a night bird flies by too. There's always players that show up to be part of your soundscape that you never expect. It's really interesting. It's now that's the spiritual side. So we'll keep it scientific, I guess.
So scientifically speaking, so this is best used with headphones for sure. Is that right?
It's best used with headphones for the maximum effect, but it's not necessary. It's not necessary.
Mm-hmm. And how long do you normally think that's the best to really kind of use this for? How often? What has been your experience?
Well, it's, you know, I find that listening, it really depends on how far you want to be in that blissful state, that creative state. You know, I'll listen to it for hours when I'm doing work, project work, coding or whatever. And I'll find that it builds this little cocoon around my mind where I can just, work in a way that I find really, really attractive for me. But it is kind of an intense experience sometimes. And so, I would say 10 minutes here and there, 15, just try it out. It really is a personal experience. It really, it's not it's so much not about all these instructions. And I promise that secretly through my magical formula, you're going to have results. And you're like, well, I could have swear I didn't feel a thing. And I don't know what you're talking about, but I'll wait 6 weeks. You'll feel it. You will know directly if it's palatable to you, to your needs. And I really feel that the universe is conspiring to help us. And I feel that any efforts we do towards helping ourselves or bettering the world, that everything kind of falls in play. Like that special bird that shows up for that cool thing. It's like, hey, we haven't seen one of those in 50 years. I don't know where that came from. Showed up at the perfect time and got on the track, and it's kind of a dance, is really what it is. And these tools allow us to create a world where, we have a little bit to say about the dominant frequencies that are really working in most cases, not for us, but controlling us. The sound of traffic, the ambient sound, the sound of having a TV in the background, the sound of, people gossiping or saying things you don't like, or the tones or just certain energies. If you just replace that with one of these tracks, the type of experience that you have mentally is completely different. It's amazing.
Right. And so for everybody that's on the webinar tonight, if you look in the chat, the very top link is actually a zip file that has 5 full tracks: Angels Healing Night, Changing River, Kindred Spirit, Deep Meditation, Ocean Dreaming, and Rain Awaken Heart. And I believe each one of those have a different frequency, Don?
Right. And the frequency that is, the solfeggio frequency is in the title, so you can get an idea of those tones. And then I also placed in the chat some links to a site that I have where you could actually hear the solfeggio frequencies, the isochronic tones, and the binaural beats in their raw form. So you can get an idea of how those sound. You can just sit and listen to those and see what I mean about, yeah, this might work, but try get me to listen to this for more than 3 minutes. It's like a dentist drill or something. It just doesn't sound appealing. So, so it's not super, excuse me, I'm sorry.
No, I'm sorry. Where are those links? I'm not.
Oh, there's a chat in this little Zoom thing here. At the bottom of the screen, there's a bubble there that says chat. Can you see that?
Okay. Yeah, I can see it. I clicked on it, but
let me try sending it again.
Okay.
I will do it one more time.
I see the one do you see the one that Pete put in there too?
I didn't see it before, but now I see it.
I see it now as well.
I'm reloading them here.
Thank you. Yeah.
Did you have any questions, Craig? Because I was curious to see what you might say.
Yeah. Well, I guess no questions, but one of the things I'm intrigued about is the only time I've ever listened to, let's say engineered sounds for the purpose of, eliciting a mental effect has always been like in a guided meditation or a guided visualization. And I would always get distracted by the person's voice, and I'd find myself sort of critiquing what they're saying and feeling, and not really being interested in it. Because I like my own thoughts, and I like being in a place where I'm processing my own thoughts instead of processing what somebody else is saying. And so I'm intrigued to try this, to listen to things like this when somebody else isn't speaking, but when I'm thinking, when my brain and mind is speaking to me. Because I think, the Silva method and some other things that I've listened to, it always seemed as though as far as I can recall, that there was always somebody speaking, and that doesn't mean that the tones the sounds didn't have some effect on me. I'm sure they did, but I was always distracted by the other person's speaking. So I'm looking forward to it without a voice in it.
Yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, because I'm the exact same way. And that's why the audio, the chordal arrangements and the music that's in there isn't as much music per se as ambience, because I don't want enough patterns to occur to where, like you're saying, now I'm thinking about the music. Now I've got a tone in my head. Now I can, but enough to where there are certain rise, falls, switches, changes, blends, and things that just make the mind feel pleasant, but allow your own thoughts to be the dominating thing, so that it brings out more of a focus towards your own inner voice rather than the guided experience or the rhythmic experience, Yeah. Yes.
Bravo. Yeah, I look forward to that. Good.
Yeah. So there's 5 tracks in there, I believe. And that's called the Ajna Vision album. And I hope you enjoy it. If you guys really like it and find that it's, resonating with your life, this course can kind of, Pete and I have set up benchmarks for the course, but we really want it to be a journey for us as a group. So we're going, so whoever decides to go with us into the course, we're going to really find a way to learn as much about this stuff learn as much about the things that we're interested in, not just this big blanket overview of all this technology over and over and over and over again. We can get through that stuff right off the get-go, then we can start talking about some more stuff, because there's also some really interesting takes on supercharging the guided meditations and the affirmations and subliminal type stuff. I mean, there's a lot of ways to use when you do want a guided theme to work with, like positive affirmations or something where you do want that. These are also great technologies to help open the mind up and be more open to those types of suggestions as well. So those are the kinds of things.
Right. So there's 3 more webinars coming up. This is the introductory one for it. I know there's a couple of people here that have already purchased the entire course, but the next one is Finding Instant Peace in a Fast-Paced World, Unlocking the Powers of Your Mind, and Resonance, the Keys to Your Success. And those are going to be in the following 3 Tuesdays from today, same time frame. So we would love for everyone to be involved. And there's also going to be some more free audio entrainment that's going to be available on each of those. We've actually designed it to where the course is basically free with the amount of material that you're getting complimentary with the course. So that's really covering the actual price of the 3 courses coming up, and that can be found on zcedonline.com when you're looking for this coursework on unlocking the powers of the audio brainwave technology. So we're really excited about the ones coming up, and we tend to really, or our intention is to really delve in a lot deeper. So Don, do you have any closing thoughts, or anybody else have any questions or anything before we go tonight?
Well, I do have a cool thing. We are going to play around with this cool little tool that I have. This is the Mindwave by NeuroSky. And this does real-time EEG and other heat and bioinformation. And I've got a small, I could actually show you how this works. If you guys talk amongst yourselves, I'll get this.
Pete, can we download this anytime, or do we do that now? Or
if you want to download it now, pardon me, you drink something, my throat's sore. Yeah, I can put it, if you want me to put it into.
Oh, I just didn't know if it was. I've never downloaded anything from the chat before, so I don't know.
Okay.
Ooh, look at that. Ooh.
Yeah. So I'm not listening to the tracks right now, but I have this this tool, and it's a little busy with some of the information, but what we can do is we can experiment and watch how the different frequencies affect and the different soundscapes affect the mind in real time. See, and as I'm talking, it's, I can do certain things with it, like I can focus attention. You can see the dials. It has a certain sorts of things. So you can play around in real time with some of the effects of this stuff. So we can actually watch it happen. It's kind of fun.
That is fun.
All right. So that's really amazing. So any questions anybody has? Don's question.
Oh, yeah, I always have a million, but
so like Pete said, though, just you will basically, by taking all the courses, you're going to end up with all of our audio works as part of it as well. So like Pete said, it's pretty much, it's no cost really in the end.
I was going to ask you, how in yoga, when you do meditate, there's a sound for every chakra, Om and, La or Ra. And all that. And those are supposed to be sort of related to certain sounds in the universe, certain vibrations and stuff, and some have correlated it to notes or tones. And I was just curious if it was something you had sort of researched or,
Yeah, yes.
I just don't know.
Yes. Yes, I did a project last year. Actually, it's the year before last now. No, I think it was last year, with a gentleman named G.P. Walsh, visionary author, and has done a lot of work with the chakras, and he's also a musician. And so we aligned all our solfeggio frequencies and scales with the different chakras as he saw them represented, and basically we translated them, and the tones are right in line with the solfeggio scale. Those scales and tonal relationships that you're talking about with the chakras are essentially the same scale. There may be a variance of what frequency goes here where, but it's pretty much the same thing.
It's kind of interesting because it relates to color, and the color is light, and light being waves. And so I find the patterns between light and sound and vibrations all kind of, interesting.
Yes. And that's why in the album, the Healing Spirit album, I wanted to focus Reiki as the healing modality, because Reiki has a symbol that's also bound to a sound. So a word and the sound are together. So they're never separate. They're always together. And I found that to be fascinating. And so, building the relationships with sound and everything else. Sound to me is, for me, it's the sense. I mean, I hate to think about losing any sense at all, but sound is just precious. It's just amazing. And, it's whatever it really is, it's, I think that it's the true nature of everything is just vibration, and it's all frequency. It all comes down to that.
Amazing. Well, if there are any other questions, or else this will be the end of the first introduction to audio brainwave technologies. We sure appreciate everybody being with us tonight. I'm hoping this has been informative and really giving you a lot of information. I'm hoping everybody enjoys the tracks that we've offered complimentary here. Thank you for those of you that have purchased the further courses, and we're really excited to keep that going. And Don, I appreciate your expertise. Thank you for everybody for being here. I want to thank ZCED Online for making this possible. And just kind of a call out for everybody to just kind of check out zcedonline.com for any other courses that might be interesting to you as well. And so without further ado, unless there's anything else, we'll just say good evening and thank you so much for joining us tonight.